Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining me today on this training on completing daily menu production records. My name is Wendy Castro-Harris, and I'm the Director of Nutrition at Better For You Meals. And for those of you needing to track your professional standards, these are the learning codes that this training falls under. So let's jump right in. So today's agenda will include learning the purpose of using production records. We'll also differentiate between production records and transportation records. And of course, you'll learn how to complete these production records. So let's start off with production records and why they matter. So production records basically provide us a snapshot on the meals served on a given day. So they're also the most important tool in determining reimbursable meals. So for those of you that are transitioning to a meal service where you're serving multiple days of meals on one day, these production records will be even more important because your transportation record, as we'll see a little bit later, will basically just have a list of all the items that you're getting on your delivery date, and your production record will be where you actually allocate which items were served on which days. So it's really important for the state to be able to check in on those production records and tell which items were served on which days and if those meals were reimbursable. Production records are also really great for non-audit purposes. They can be used for forecasting so that you can, look back. Like let's say in September, you want to try to gauge how many meals you served on, that certain day of the week. You can use that to kind of determine how many you should order the next month, or, any time that you are going to be serving a similar item. They're really helpful in reducing waste. So again, kind of going hand in hand with that forecasting. I know things are going to be a little bit tough right now since kids won't be physically in schools. But kind of looking into the future, this is helpful because for any schools that are offer versus serve during the regular school year when kids are back, if you have 100 fruits left over, 100 milks left over, looking at that on the production record will help you determine how much to scale down, or if you are close to running out, you can scale up. So it's just really helpful in that sense. And again, connecting all of these things, they also help to determine the most popular item. So for example, if we had the roasted chicken leg in August and it was super popular, you're going to want to look at how many meals you served in the time prior so that you can kind of gauge how many you need the next time around that it's on the menu. So again, it's super helpful to have these production records. They're used for all kinds of ways, and I've actually seen how helpful they can be in the school setting. So let's talk about the differences between production records and transportation records. We touched on it a little bit, but basically transportation records are a receipt of the total meals that you receive on a given day. So if you're only getting one meal, the day's meals on that day, then that's okay. But many of you are actually doing multiple meals on one day. Like you may do 2 days worth of meals or 3 days worth of meals, or some of you are even doing 5 days worth of meals, which is great, right? Because parents they don't have to come out as often to get meals for their children, and we're reducing exposure for your staff as well. So your production records will be where you can indicate which of those items from the total on your transportation record were served on each given day. So basically you'll have to produce or complete a production record for each individual meal service and each individual meal type. So when I say each individual day of meal service, I mean like Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. Even if you only serve meals on Monday, you still have to complete the production records for the whole week that you serve meals for. And you'll have to do that for both breakfast and for lunch, since it's slightly different meal patterns. And as I mentioned before, production records are directly tied to the meal pattern compliance. for a given day. So they really help provide that snapshot of whether the meals that you served were reimbursable or not. So as you know, we do have some meal pattern waivers in place that do provide some flexibility. However, we want to make sure that we're still being completely compliant in all of our paperwork and that we're explaining, what's going on. So let's just go ahead and jump into how we can start filling those production records out. So many of you may have seen this already. This is our sample production record. We touched on this during our town hall meetings. You will get a copy of this in Excel format and also in PDF format. PDF is great for printing. Excel is great if you want to go ahead and, plug in the data by typing it. If you want to do that, it's a little bit faster. One thing I definitely recommend is if you're going to print these out, make sure that you fill out the school name, the age group, and whether it's breakfast or lunch or offer versus serve or serve only, so that way you have less to write with a pen or with a pencil. And I do recommend using a pencil actually, because there are lots of mistakes that are made and it's just so much easier to erase instead of having to cross it out. Ideally, you don't want to have to, redo these and print them out each time you make a mistake. So use a pencil. I learned the hard way when I had to do production records. So yeah, but I do recommend filling out those portions up here so that you can have less to do when you print these out. All right, so let's go ahead and actually, through this training, we're gonna separate how to fill this out in sections so that you can see very clearly, since it's kind of small. So we're gonna start off here with the top section, then we're gonna jump into the body of it, and then we're gonna do the portions of meals that were served, and then we'll basically just wrap it up that way. So let's jump into the top. All right, so step one, you're gonna grab your transportation record after your meal delivery and a blank production record. One thing to note though, is that you could technically start to fill out, like I said, some of these parts before your meal is delivered. So if you already wanna kind of get started on your production records for the month, you already know how many meals you ordered. So you can go ahead and write in the meals plan portion part of it based on your actual order. And if that changes later on, that's okay. You can just go ahead and change that on your end, but at least you can kind of have some of it done so that it's not, it doesn't feel like you have all of these blank production records that you have to fill out. So here you would start off with your school name and your age group. You would also indicate if it's breakfast or lunch, or if you're serve only. For this example, we are doing breakfast and we are a serve only school. Our age group is K through 5, and we are writing the date of July 27th, but of course you would write the day that, or the date that you are specifically not serving meals, but that the meals are supposed to be eaten. So if I'm distributing on Monday, but I'm giving out Monday through Friday's worth of meals, I would do a production record, like I mentioned, for Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. So you would just change the date on here, even though your quantities here would stay the same. So I'm planning for 250 meals, 250 reimbursable meals, and I'm gonna go ahead and leave these blank for now, and we'll come back to it at the end. So coming into the body of the production record. So step 3 is using our transportation record, or our receipt, to complete the middle portion of the record. So here I have a little snippet of our middle portion. So I'm gonna go ahead and move over the banana muffin, the banana, and the milk. So these are the first items that are listed on the transportation record, and I'm going to go ahead and transfer them over here. I want to take note or make a point that these numbers on the side are actually the recipe number. So that's where you will have that information here. This is the portion size, so all of that is in 1 each. And our meal components are actually up here. So you just have to basically transfer everything that's already written here onto your production record. So here we can see banana muffin, our recipe number 4150. We have a portion size of 1 each. It contributes 2 ounces of grain toward the meal pattern. Banana, same kind of thing, and it contributes 1/2 cup based on what our transportation record says, and our milk contributes 1 cup. So that's pretty easy, right? You just have to, look at the transportation record and transfer that information over. If you receive a substituted meal item, which might happen in case we get a shortage or if we get a substitution ourselves, please make sure to indicate that both on your transportation record and on your production record. I cannot stress that enough. We need to make sure that our records are 100% accurate. So let's say you get a blueberry muffin instead of a banana muffin. No big deal. It still contributes the same amount of grains. And you can ask us that, you can verify that with us if you do have a question about that. But we will always make sure that if there's something substituted, that it contributes at least to the minimum meal pattern. So here you would just write a line across it and put blueberry, and then on your actual production record, you would just write blueberry muffin. And again, if you have any questions about how that contributes, just reach out to us and we'll be happy to answer. If you get apples instead of bananas, same kind of thing. Just cross it off and on your transportation record, and you write the correct thing on your production record. All right, so let's move on to the meal count. So as you can see, this is like that first half of this part here. So we're gonna get into like the nitty-gritty numbers. So this isn't overly complicated, but sometimes it can feel very redundant. So I want to make sure that, everything is crystal clear for you all as you are completing this, since it may be new for many of you. So our planned number of reimbursable servings and our planned servings total will always be the same. And the reason for that is that we don't plan for non-reimbursable servings. Unless you guys are serving a la carte, which I don't believe any of you are, then all of the meals that we're planning for should be reimbursable. And when I say reimbursable, I mean first meals taken and compliant meals taken. So that's really important because second meals are not reimbursable. So unless you're, planning on planning for second meals and covering them from your own funds, then I really do advise that you plan just for reimbursable. And this next section here, prepared number of servings, reimbursable servings and prepared servings total. So basically, since you guys are not preparing any meals in your kitchen, you are depending on us, your vendor, to send you the meals. This amount will be the actual meals that you receive. So how many meals arrived? For this example, I received exactly the same amount of meals that I had ordered. So I put the same 250 on here. If I had received less or more, then I would indicate that here as well. Like if I only received 248 or 240, I would indicate that here. Or if I received 260, maybe sometimes it happens where you might get a couple extra. So you can go ahead and indicate that here. And again, this helps you with your meal claiming as well, because you'll have all of the data that you need for CNIPS for when you're submitting your meal claims. All right, and again, these numbers will be the same because we're counting on reimbursable servings and servings total to be exactly the same. All right, so served reimbursable servings means the number of first meals that are compliant that were served. So here we're not talking about planning or receiving meals anymore. We're talking about how many did we actually distribute. So for this example, I said that we distributed 242 compliant meals to students. And those are 242 unique students, only first meals, no second meals. And we served 0 non-compliant meals. So had I served any meals to parents or to staff or any second meals, then I would indicate that here because I cannot claim those. I can only claim my reimbursable meals. Servings total, of course, is the reimbursable plus non-reimbursable meal servings. So in this case, since it was 0, it's still the same amount. So 242 plus 0 equals still 242. So that is that. And as you will see here, since we are a serve-only school, you'll see that all of my numbers are exactly the same. I served the same amount of muffins, bananas, and milk because I'm, like I said, I'm serve-only. If I was offer versus serve, then these numbers might be a little bit different because as you know, offer versus serve, you get to decline some items. So a student may only grab a banana muffin and a banana, the minimum requirement, or they may get a milk and 2 bananas, and that would be a compliant meal. But in this case, we're serve only, so we're gonna leave it all the same. If you have any questions though about offer versus serve, please feel free to reach out. All right, so the last column here is leftover, and we want to indicate what we did with those leftovers. Did we throw them away? Did we keep it for later? So we'll talk about that as well. And for this example, I said that we threw them away. And I got this total by subtracting the number of prepared meals, 250, from the servings, 242. So 250 minus 242 is 8. And like I said, I decided for this example that we would throw it away since we serve meals only every Monday. My bananas and my milk wouldn't really be appropriate to serve a whole week later. And I don't have storage for banana muffins. So I just went ahead and threw them away for the purposes of this example. I also wanted to mention that the fruit and milk recipes are optional. Although they're going to be listed on your transportation record, the most important things about fruit and milk specifically are the portion sizes and how they contribute to the meal pattern. The vegetable, of course, you have to list the recipe though. This is really only for banana and milk, or for fruit and milk. And the reason for that is that during audits, they never ask us for our milk and fruit recipes. We just provide our labels for those. So if you don't even want to think about it though, please go ahead and write in the recipe numbers since they will be listed on your transportation record anyway. But yeah, that technically you don't have to do that part if you don't want to, but please make sure to write every other recipe number that is required. All right, so we finished with pretty much the whole production record now. We just want to go back to this little section that we had left out from the top. So this portion of the production record is a summary of the whole sheet. So this little box right here. So this is where we basically add in the same information from the previous part of the production record, and we transfer it here. So we planned for 250 reimbursable servings. We planned for 0 non-reimbursable servings. So the total meals we planned for is 250. We prepared, or in this case, we received 250 reimbursable meals. We didn't receive any meals that we had, planned for non-reimbursable. And so the total meals that we received, or in this case prepared, is 250. We served 242 reimbursable meals. We served 0 non-reimbursable meals. So the total meals that we served is 242. So this total is always going to be the reimbursable minus the the reimbursable plus the non-reimbursable. So in this case, since they were all zeros, it's pretty self-explanatory. But yeah, let's go ahead and look at what it looks like. So this is our transportation record. Now that it's all filled out, I went ahead and signed it. This is very important. Make sure that you always sign your production records. That basically just guarantees that all the information is accurate to your knowledge. But yeah, it's pretty great, pretty simple. Although it might take some getting used to, I promise that it is a quick process once you have the hang of it. I did want to mention this legend at the bottom here. So The abbreviations here, in case you're not familiar with these, I listed them here. So your grain breads are listed here. 2 ounces, you would write those in ounces. So if it was a mini banana muffin, that's only 1 ounce, you would indicate that here. Your meat alternates, that's going to be there in some breakfast, but it will always be there for lunch. Your veg are your vegetables, and then your fruit and milk aren't abbreviated, so there's not an issue with that. And your vegetable subgroups. For lunch, you will have your vegetables listed on your transportation record, depending on what type of subgroup they fall under. So let's give the example of potatoes. We're serving a cheeseburger and potatoes, and our transportation record is going to list it as such. It's going to say that the potatoes fall under the starchy vegetable group. So you're gonna list that here. You're gonna put 1/2 cup starchy. So again, if you have any questions about that, feel free to let me know. I will be sharing a production record that has a lunch example as well, so that you can make sure to have that information. And then the last thing I wanted to know is this other section here. So REIMB, when I abbreviated that, that means reimbursable. Return to stock, basically that means that you decided to keep that to serve it at a later time. And W equals waste. All right, so the last step would just be to complete your production records for the week. So we did Monday's breakfast already. So let's go ahead and use your transportation record to complete the rest of the week. So as you can see here, we have these little boxes here for the meals that will be taken on Tuesday. So these are the next items listed on the transportation record. We have these items selected for our Wednesday transportation record. These are the 3rd items listed. Thursday, same thing, the 4th items listed. And finally, Friday, using the last items listed. Please note that on this Friday, we had 2 items for breakfast. We had cereal and crackers. So you would indicate both of those on your production records. If you are ever unsure about which items go on what days, please make sure to refer to your menu. So as you can see here, this will tell you if the cereal goes by itself or it goes with a whole grain bite or some crackers. You'll see which items go when. And if you have any questions, of course, you can always reach out to your account manager as well. Thank you so much for your time. I hope this was really helpful. And if you have any questions, comments, or concerns, feel free to email us at nutrition@betterforyoumeals.com. Take care, everyone.